now. You can go to Stuffies.com and enter this promo code.
Thank you, Grandma. That's StuffIES.com.
Must be 18 years or older to order online.
Well, some new information on the trial of a Montana newlywed accused of pushing her husband off a cliff to his death. The brother of Jordan Graham, Jordan being the wife, her brother breaking down on the witness stand, saying he was angry with his sister for repeatedly lying about the circumstances surrounding the death of her husband, Cody Johnson. But the lies are just one issue in this case. There are a few other key points that could come up into play during this trial. A possible blindfold found near the body, where the body was eventually discovered in the woods. There's allegations that Graham threatened to kill her parents shortly before her husband's death. And there's also some questionable text messages as well in the hours before what prosecutors are calling a murder. Dan Schorr is a former prosecutor and Brian Silver is a criminal defense attorney. Nice to have you both on this case. Brian, you surprised me. You say that this case should not even be prosecuted. Why?
Absolutely. Listen, this is one of those classic textbook cases where you frankly have a lack of evidence. The only two people that know what happened that day on that cliff is the defendant and the deceased. And there's no one to rebut it. And all the other supposed evidence they have in this case is meaningless. The one thing the prosecution can say is that why didn't she call for help when he fell off that cliff? Why did she wait? Why did she lie about it? Well, there's two reasons for that. Sometimes people do it because they're guilty and they killed someone and they need to cover up. But the other reason is because they're freaking out and they find themselves in circumstances that look like they're guilty, even though it was an accident. And when someone can't be helped because they fell 200 feet to their death, some people make the wrong decision, but it doesn't mean they're guilty.
Dan, to Brian's point, what about that? Because she told law enforcement two stories. There's one story where she said she turned and walked away and got really angry and pushed this guy from behind and pushed him off the cliff. There's the other story that he grabbed her and in her effort to get him off, he fell off the cliff. But she's the only one that was there. So what do you do as the prosecutor?
Right, I disagree with Brian. I think this is a very strong case for the prosecution. She kept changing her story from saying that she didn't know where he was or whether he was alive or not, to saying that they got into a fight and she accidentally pushed him, to saying, according to law enforcement, that in anger she pushed him off the cliff when he was not a threat at that moment. And when you're judging the credibility of any witness or any defendant, you have to look at how they behave after an incident. So once he's pushed and she doesn't know for sure he's dead, she immediately goes into cover-up mode. She doesn't try to get help as any of us would if we had seen our spouse fall over a cliff. She texts
But does that mean she's guilty of murder, a premeditated murder, which is what the prosecution is saying?
Well, the first-degree murder count says premeditation, pre-planned, and that's hard to prove. But she's also facing second-degree murder, which is intentional murder. And what she does after is very consistent with an intentional murder because she's covering it up. She's texting a friend saying he's alive and doing other things to tell the law enforcement that she doesn't know where he is.
Brian, I'm going to have to run in a second, but a quick final thought. How effective do you think it is to have her brother crying on the stand saying, "My sister's a liar"?
Listen, I think, honestly, a good trial lawyer will show this is the epitome of the prosecution's weakness. They got to turn to her 16-year-old brother, who really doesn't know much about anything because of his age and his immaturity, to go and build their case for them. You know, the fact that she told multiple stories doesn't make this a murder. It makes her someone who covered something up, and the question is what?
A lot more to talk about in this case. Dan, Brian, great to have you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Red hot NASCAR superstar Danica Patrick hitting all the right notes, co-hosting the 4th Annual American Country Awards. Boy, she surprised the audience. That's coming up.
Success doesn't keep normal office hours. So right now, to help you keep that